Hey, welcome back. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is The Great Conversation. So, I want you to do something for me. Think of the oldest story you know from your own family. A tale about your great-grandparents, maybe, or how your parents met. Got it. Now, ask yourself a question. Is every single detail of that story true? Or is its truth found in something deeper? In the character it reveals, the values it passes down, the simple, human connection it preserves across time? That tension between the factual record and the larger truth of the human experience is where our story begins today. Over 2,400 years ago, a Greek man from a town called Halicarnassus did something astonishing. He tried to write down the history of the entire known world and the epic conflict between East and West, the Persian Wars. His name was Herodotus, and for centuries, scholars have been locked in a debate. Was he the father of history or the father of lies? Let's set the scene. It's the 5th century BC. Herodotus is traveling from Egypt to Babylon, from the Black Sea to Italy. He's not a conqueror or a merchant. He's a listener. He's collecting stories. History, in his Greek, meant inquiry, and his inquiries were breathtakingly broad. He wanted to know why the Nile flooded, how the Egyptians mummified their dead, what the Scythians ate, and, most importantly, how a scrappy coalition of Greek city-states managed to repel the colossal invading force of the Persian Empire. And this is where the accusations start. Because in his monumental work, the Histories, alongside the gripping accounts of battles at Marathon and Thermopylae, you'll find some, let's say, peculiar details. He tells us of giant ants in India that dig for gold. He describes flying snakes in Arabia. He recounts a tale of Egyptian priests showing him the skulls of ancient kings to prove their longevity. For a long time, especially in the 19th century when history was trying to cement itself as a rigorous, scientific discipline, scholars looked at these passages and dismissed Herodotus as a credulous fool, a charming storyteller at best, a fabricator at worst. They preferred his successor, Thucydides, with his strict focus on politics, war, and verifiable facts. Thucydides was the proper historian. Herodotus was the entertaining liar. But that's a terribly modern, and frankly, narrow way to read him. To call Herodotus a liar implies he set out to deceive. I don't think he did. I think he was something far more interesting. A pioneer standing at the crossroads of oral tradition and written record, of myth and logos, reasoned account. He wasn't just reporting data, he was building a worldview. His method was revolutionary. He would present multiple, conflicting accounts of the same event. He'd say, the Persians tell the story this way, but the Greeks tell it that way, and here's what the Phoenicians say. He was showing his work. He was, in essence, creating the first annotated bibliography. He was transparent about his sources, even when he was skeptical of them. My duty is to report all that is said, he wrote, but I am not obliged to believe it all alike. That's a foundational statement for any historian or journalist. And here's where I find a personal connection. Growing up in Bangladesh, history wasn't just dates in a textbook. It was in the Jatra folk theater, in the epic poems recited during festivals, in my grandmother's stories about the Liberation War. Those stories had hyperbole, they had moral lessons woven in, they had a narrative drive that pure chronology lacks. But they held a profound truth about identity, struggle, and resilience. Herodotus was doing the same thing for the Greek world. He wasn't just cataloging the what of the Persian Wars. He was investigating the why. Why did the Greeks win? For him, it was about character, about the fragile ideal of freedom pitted against the inertia of empire, about the role of divine fortune and human folly. His digressions about Egyptian customs or Scythian marriage rituals weren't irrelevant. They were building a comparative anthropology, showing the incredible diversity of human culture, all to contextualize this colossal clash. Think about his most famous character, King Croesus of Lydia. Herodotus uses Croesus's story as a moral and philosophical framework. Croesus, the richest man alive, asks the Athenian sage Solon who the happiest man is. Solon says it's a regular Athenian who lived a good life and died honorably for his city. Croesus is insulted, but later, after he's lost his kingdom and is sitting on a pyre about to be burned alive by the Persian king Cyrus, he remembers Solon's words. Cyrus, moved by the story, spares him. This is a perfectly structured, novelistic tale. Is every word factually accurate? Probably not. But does it convey a deep, essential truth about the Greek concept of hubris, the volatility of fortune, and the nature of happiness? Absolutely. Herodotus is using the tools of a dramatist to explore historical causation. So, was Herodotus a liar? No. He was a product of his time, a brilliant synthesizer working without a blueprint. He was the first to attempt to separate the recent, human past from the timeless realm of myth, and to give it a narrative shape based on inquiry. He failed sometimes. He relayed tall tales. But he also got an astonishing amount right. Modern archaeology has repeatedly vindicated his descriptions of places like Babylon and Egyptian customs. The skeleton of his account of the Persian Wars remains our primary framework. As an engineer and an entrepreneur, I'm fascinated by foundational systems. You build on what came before, you iterate, you improve. Herodotus built the first version of a system for understanding the past. It had bugs. It needed patches. Thucydides came along and offered a major update with a tighter, more critical operating system. But you don't dismiss the pioneer of a field because their prototype wasn't perfect. You recognize the sheer audacity of the attempt. Herodotus gave us more than a chronicle. He gave us a conversation. He invited the voices of the Egyptians, the Persians, the Scythians into the Greek narrative. In a way, he was hosting the first great conversation across cultures, trying to find the human threads that connect us all. That's his real legacy. It's not about the gold-digging ants. It's about the profound impulse to look at your neighbor, your rival, your enemy, and say, "Tell me your story. Let me try to understand." So the next time you hear a family story that seems a little too polished, a little too dramatic, remember Herodotus. The facts matter. We must always strive for them. But sometimes, the story itself, the one we choose to tell about who we are and where we came from, carries a weight that transcends the mere checklist of events. That was his genius. He didn't just record history. He showed us why it's worth remembering in the first place. Thanks for joining me for this first episode of The Great Conversation. If this exploration of our shared past resonated with you, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Share it with someone who loves a good story. For more from me, Ibnul J. Farabi, and the entire team, visit our home at Light Not Studios. https://www.lightnotstudios.com. Until next time, keep listening, keep questioning.